All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Rob Frederick, and I serve in two roles, and I'm happy to welcome you to our virtual GME open house for the evening. So I serve in two roles for the organization, and on behalf of the Offices of Graduate Medical Education and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, I'd like to welcome you to our virtual open house. I serve in the role of physician recruitment in the GME office, as well as Senior Vice President Academic Affairs for ProMedica. And I'd like to welcome you for sure this evening. Next slide. So our objectives for the evening are to provide an overview of the UT College of Medicine and Life Sciences, abbreviated there, GME related information, to discuss the UT approach to maintaining a diverse, inclusive, and supportive environment for its learners, faculty, and staff, and hear about experiences that some of our current residents have had here at the University of Toledo. Next. So our agenda overall is to welcome you and to just overview the University of Toledo College of Medicine and its GME programs, the community, our affiliation, the University of Toledo strategic and tactical efforts at improving diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as tying those to well-being of our learners, which is an important, very important aspect for us. Also to provide an overview of the diversity, inclusion, and well-being efforts throughout the college, as well as the university, and the energy and the importance behind those. Then finally, we'll wrap up with an opportunity for a panel discussion to hear from some of the residents, some opportunity for, through the chat, some questions and some interchange with those of you students that are joining us tonight. Next. So just a little bit about the University of Toledo, and we'll kind of go broad scope and then narrow kind of through my introduction here. The university was established in 1872. 270 plus undergraduate, graduate, and professional programs are part of the portfolio or the organization's programs. 18,000 plus students, $65 million in externally funded research grants. And then the college has two primary campuses, some smaller campus sites, but two major campuses, the Health Sciences campus, which houses the University of Toledo College of Medicine and Life Sciences, as well as other healthcare professional areas and biomedical sciences. Next. The College of Medicine and Life Sciences, then, founded as the Medical College of Ohio at Toledo in 1964. Currently, we have over 700 medical students, 1,500 plus faculty members, and the graduate medical education learners represent 350 plus residents and fellows, 16 residency programs, and 22 fellowships. Next. Our current programs, and those span ACGM accredited and non-accredited. I won't read the entire list. You'll have opportunity to look at this in detail later, but we have 15 ACGME residency programs, one that is non-ACGME but under the college. They're in medical physics. And we have ACGME accredited fellowships and non-ACGME accredited but formal fellowships that are often influenced and accredited in other manner. And then we have dentistry as well, all under the umbrella of the College of Medicine. Next. So the ProMedica campus provides the large academic and tertiary and quaternary training ground for the majority of their education in our residencies and our fellowships. The ProMedica Toledo Hospital is the core campus for ProMedica, which is a healthcare network that spans across Southeast Michigan and Northwest Ohio. The campus houses the majority of the rotations for students and residents in our programs, and it's the largest center in this area for the region. Next. So some of the things that happen here on that campus, and again, it's a combined, separately structured children's hospital, but the campus houses both the adult and the children's hospital in one location. It's the flagship campus for ProMedica. It's a large regional medical system. It's the tertiary center, the largest in the region. In 2019, we're proud to say that we built a 13-story inpatient tower that you saw the picture of there. That's both large and extremely well-equipped, highly advanced as far as its technology goes, and has unfinished space, particularly designed to accommodate more of the academic medical center growth that was part of the affiliation, which Dr. Klaczynski, my colleague here, will share more about. The campus has 850 beds plus 37,000 admissions, about 90,000 ER visits just on that campus. And its high acuity care is across the spectrum, adult and pediatrics, a variety of areas, just trauma, stroke, STEMI operations for cardiac, obstetrics, neonatology, pediatric and pediatric ICU, et cetera. The recent recognitions for that campus have been CMS or Medicare 5-star performance, which is the highest ranking a couple years running. U.S. News and World Report, again, #1 in the region, couple years, and HealthGrade's 50 best hospitals in the U.S. I think that's 2 years in the running as well. So it's had a long-standing established history of high quality and tertiary extensive care areas. Next. So the University of Toledo Medical Center. So we have education going on in robust areas in 2 major different centers. It's the historic hospital for the College of Medicine, started when it was the Medical College of Ohio. It is just a short drive from the ProMedica campus. So those learners that are going between campuses and faculty and students have a very short drive. It is the established, long-standing academic multidisciplinary inpatient teaching facility on the health science campus. So as students go through their early training M1, M2, and obviously for those of your students on the line, you know that in 3rd and 4th year, you're out in clinical areas. And so the main campus for the M1 and M2 is right attached to the hospital center. It is serving as both academics and, like I mentioned, a community hospital for the southwest portion of the Toledo area and the surrounding community. It has, again, a mix of both community care and specialty care. Some of the focused areas of specialty services it provides are examples are behavioral health, renal transplant services, geriatrics, and others. Next slide, please. The one of our points of special educational support for all of our residency training programs and all students and all disciplines, whether it's pharmacy, nursing, plus medicine, a immersive simulation center that is, we like to say state of the art, but everything is always evolving and we keep up with the evolution as always possible. It is modern, well-equipped, a 3-level center that is divided into multiple areas, of equipment as well as approach to simulation and robotic training. Surgical and other procedural skill labs, conference areas, which we don't have on the slide, but a number of conference areas, robotic simulation, patient interview and evaluation center. So hence all residents and fellows in training have opportunity to use the center. It is also housing some of our strong areas of biomedical research and development. Again, combining research and business development and entrepreneurial efforts along with biomedicine. Next. So we'd be remiss if we didn't give you a little bit of a look at our community. So next slide, please. So Toledo is a mid-sized Midwestern community, welcoming, inclusive. We have much to offer. We feel it's a great place to begin your graduate education as medical students, moving on into residency training. If you ever desired more, though we have great things to offer, it's a very reasonable drive within just a matter of an hour or a couple hours of other large metropolitan areas, Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, amongst the examples. So hopefully this has just been a quick overview of our offerings. We wanted to spend the majority of our time this evening in some other areas. I want to here's our contact information. And you can find not only the information I've highlighted here, more in detail on our website, but also we have a view book that unpacks each of these areas, topical areas, just a little bit more, and is virtual and online for you. It also gives a little better, well, much better, actually a visual tour of our facilities that we've described, where our learners are doing their training. So with that, I would like to pass off the conversation to my friend and colleague, Dr. Jim Klaschinski. And Jim serves as our Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affiliations. Dr. Klaschinski.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Frederick. It's a real privilege to be able to participate in this virtual tour this evening. And again, thank you for allowing me to do that and share some perspectives about the college and GME programs. And also thank you to the participants for your interest in our GME programs. We have a tremendous amount to offer you as prospective residents, and we think that you would fit in very well here. You'd be trained very well, and we have a lot of depth to our programming. So again, thank you for taking a moment to explore our programs, and hopefully you'll find that we're a good fit for you. Next slide, Lou. Again, as Dr. Frederick said, I have a couple roles here at the university. I'm a professor in the Department of Medicine, and I'm also the Senior Associate Dean for the affiliation with ProMedica. So many of us work hand in hand with our ProMedica colleagues. Interested applicants often ask, what is the academic affiliation with ProMedica? What does it mean? So I'd like to give you just a couple quick bullet points. First of all, if you look around the country and look at medical schools, you'll find that the top medical schools really are affiliated or are a part of a health system that, you know, if you look at the top 50 or 100 medical schools in the country, really they're all part of a larger system that can support the clinical training and the research, and a lot of times the tripartite mission of clinical education, research, and didactics and programming. So that's one of the things that the affiliation with ProMedica brings for us. So in a nutshell, what is it? A few years back in 2015, the leadership at both organizations had the foresight to look ahead and say, how can we make Toledo stronger? How can we make our organization stronger and you know, nationally renowned? And they felt that this partnership together could really do that and really jumpstart both the College of Medicine, the community in Toledo, and ProMedica really into a different stratosphere. So this affiliation is basically a 50-year agreement. And we wanted it to be a long time because we wanted there to be a deep commitment to the relationship. There's about a $2.5 billion investment. That includes money that comes directly to the College of Medicine to support academic programming and research, but it also includes support for facilities. So we've done a lot in the last couple years to really bolster the physical facilities for our residents and our students to participate in teaching and education on the Toledo Hospital campus. So our goal, and again, the three big bullet points are, we're working to develop Toledo Hospital and Ebi Children's Hospital into a premier AMC. That, I think, is at the core of the relationship. As I mentioned, it also supports those missions of the education and research for our learners. And one of the indirect benefits that we're looking for, and of course that we want, is we want to be able to both attract, but even more importantly, retain the top talent that comes. We want students that come into residency or people coming from outside into our residency to want to stay in our community and to work in Toledo or Northwest Ohio or Southern Michigan to help, you know, bring forward the goals of the College of Medicine for the next 50 years. So if you'd like to find out about general GME items, as well as be able to link to the specific programs, this would be the link I would direct you to. This will get you right to our GME website homepage. You'll be able to select from the areas that you see highlighted in yellow. There'll also be a menu on the right where you can drop down and get more focused. And then as you're scrolling through the website, you'll be able to link directly with that program that you're most interested in. So I'd ask you and urge you actually to look at this main webpage. This will provide a lot of information that'll help be the portal of entry and be able to get you at those specific programs that you're looking for. I think it's really important when you're looking for your GME education to look at the institutions and how have they identified their strategic planning, and have they identified their strategic planning related to diversity inclusion along with well-being. As you can see, I put a link for two websites. One is for the University of Toledo strategic plan. That's 2020 to 2023. And also my colleague, Dr. Kim Jenkins, in a few minutes will be elaborating on some diversity initiatives within the College of Medicine strategic plan, which the College of Medicine undertook in 2019 and then implemented in 2020. I think it's important for you to do this and ask a couple of questions. One is, do you have something? But really, I think what you want to look for is the delivery. What are the organizations doing to really deliver on strategic plans or strategic planning that they've identified within their organizations? It's really important that they identify it. Equally as important to identify what are they doing to make sure that they're actually completing those goals and objectives that they have outlined. And I'm really proud of the work that our organizations have done together and that the College of Medicine has done under the leadership of Dr. Christopher Cooper to really outline and implement these plannings. The one thing I also wanted to mention, Dr. Althmani will be one of our speakers following Dr. Jenkins. Well-being is really important to us from a residency and GME standpoint. So much so that when we were looking at well-being, one of the roles Dr. Althmani has and was focused on was that of well-being. One of the directives when she came into the GME office was to create well-being planning for our residency. So we actually put, the phrase money where your mouth is to make sure that we had someone that was doing this and looking out for the best interests of our residents. Again, thank you for your time and for the few minutes together. I'd now like to turn the program over to my colleague, Dr. Kim Jenkins, who is not only the interim chair of anesthesia, but also the Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Klaschinski. It is truly an honor to speak with you tonight. It is a privilege to serve in the role of Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion and Interim Chair for Anesthesia. I'm also happy to have one of my third-year residents on the panel this evening as well. Next slide, please. We have put together a 3-year strategic plan for diversity and inclusion, and very proud of this work. We put together stakeholders across the college to put together a 32 strategy 4-goal plan, which really helps to meet the needs of the members of the college and the members of the greater Toledo community we serve. Next slide, please. And the kind of foundation of this plan really surround areas, kind of broad areas of recruitment, clinical education and training, inclusion initiatives, community outreach, ways that we're partnering with organizations and members outside the walls of the institution. Next slide, please. And really hoping to promote an inclusive climate. So we have 4 goals, 32 strategies, very ambitious, but a lot of it stems from that desire to produce a more inclusive and equitable and diverse climate within the institution. Next slide. And part of that is really supporting the groups and the people that we have. So we have several student, faculty, and resident affinity groups that are very active, longstanding. Pictured here is SNMA, which has over 20-year history here and does quite a few outreach activities and partnerships, really helps to serve underserved and marginalized communities. And part of the aim of the Office of Diversity is to support these groups in their mission as well, and to help them innovate and to help them meet success in their initiatives on an annual basis. Next slide. White Coats for Black Lives is a new organization with a mission of dismantling racism in medicine. It has a new chapter here within the College of Medicine. We're very excited about it. Over 300 members here at UT, and has promoted monthly educational endeavors, certainly several protests and initiatives surrounding activism and anti-racism. And we're very excited about that new chapter here. Next slide. The Barbershop Initiative is another program where we work outside of the institution to kind of address health disparities in the African American community. And we've had students, residents, and faculty members work on educational initiatives, health promotion, and preventive measures directly with business owners and members of the community, African American community, in developing partnerships and relationships built on trust and a foundation of really improving the lives outside of the institution. Next slide. And part of the foundation of the strategic plan stems from the advisory council, which is made up of students, residents, and faculty members and staff members that really worked in over a year in developing the strategic plan and taking in information from our climate survey and really trying to develop a plan that would intimately meet the needs and demands of the members of the college. Next slide. We're very proud of our Language of Diversity series. We've had 15 events, next slide, over the past year, even in a pandemic. We've had community town halls, next slide, just addressing conversations and dialogues around race, equity, and inclusion. Next slide. We've had women in medicine empowerment town halls with students, residents, and faculty regionally and nationally to really promote dialogue along issues surrounding social justice and equity. Next slide. And invited speakers locally, regionally, and nationally to come in and talk about issues surrounding anti-racism, to talk about their own journeys, their own motivational journeys within the college and their mission to serve underserved populations. Next slide. One of the strengths, I think, of the college is in our mentoring opportunities and partnerships with Toledo public and private schools. We've had partnerships with Upward Bound program to really make a difference in the lives of those children from social economically disadvantaged backgrounds, first generation college students, and underrepresented minority students. We really encourage, because we think that this type of work really helps to empower you by empowering others. So we've had a pipeline program, next slide, for 15 years with the STARS program, pipeline program with the REACH program, which goes through our summer months, and really try to find ways to motivate by bringing students into the academic environment, onto the College of Medicine campus to gain exposure that they may not otherwise have. As a resident here, you have that unique opportunity to make a difference in the lives of students who may step onto a campus for the very first time. And some of the success stories, as we see here with Dr. Edwards, is that some of these same students who were in these high school programs and then undergraduate programs may then go on to matriculate and then eventually graduate from our program here within the College of Medicine. So one of the key endeavors in all of our initiatives is to promote um, initiatives that help to drive equity, diversity, and inclusion conversations to the forefront, to drive these conversations to the forefront of our priorities as a college, and then really help you to thrive instead of just survive through our program, and also to find ways that you can feel that this is not an opportunity where you're just a guest in this house, but this is really your home for the time that you're training here, and that you would eventually want to join here as a leader following your program. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Uthmani. I'm the Assistant Dean for Graduate and Continuing Medical Education. I'm also an emergency medical physician. I used to be an Associate Program Director for the Emergency Medicine Residency Program about 5 to 6 years before being promoted to the Assistant Dean position. And I still actually do a lot of interviews for the candidates like yourselves. I'm really excited to be here tonight to speak to you all, and I'm very proud of all my residents for being on the resident panel to speak to you all today. Next slide. So today I'm going to go over some well-being initiatives that we have been doing here at University of Toledo for our residents and fellows. And one of the big ones here is our employee assistance program. It's called Impact Solutions. It's a free 24/7 confidential support for our UT residents and their families. So basically anybody in the household is able to use this type of assistance program. It's very helpful in if you need any financial or legal resources, as well as any help with your taxes or needing any type of help with childcare. And you can call or use their chatbot. Additionally, we have their AMA accounts that the residents use. We also give them free access to an app called Headspace. It's designed to help with stress and anxiety. This past year, we were able to get an enhanced version of the employee assistance program, which included a personal assistant to help with your to-do list, and as well as a life coach and a mental health counseling. So one of the biggest things that we have been doing over the past year in graduate medical education is what we created is a well-being champions. So we have about 1 to 3 residents in each program that meet with me quarterly this year. Last year, what we were doing is meeting once a month with different types of experts in wellness, like meditation, eating healthy habits, things to help with depression, resiliency. This year, we decided to meet every 3 to 4 months to just kind of go over what the residents and fellows want to see some change in. So things that they've developed is intramural sports, resident recognition. Last year, we had helped develop a concierge service with the Enhanced Employee Assistance Program, where they have a personal assistant, as well as a Goodyear car service and mail service. So the residents and fellows are able to go to any of the UT sporting events, like the football games, as well as any wellness events that's happening on main campus. All they have to use is their badge. And one of the big things that we're very big on here is patient safety for both the University of Toledo Health Science Campus as well as at Toledo Hospital. And so both hospitals use a different type of programs. One's called an RL6 and one's Patient Safety Net. And that helps with patient safety and improvement. And the other thing that we do here is a professional concern line. So anything related to, sexual harassment and discrimination. So one of the things we started last year is a resident appreciation week. So we were able to do different types of raffle, gift cards, book stipends, different types of sweaters. We also had Chick-fil-A come on both night shift and day shift, as well as both campuses at UTMC as well as ProMedica, Toledo Hospital. And so, we always appreciate all our residents and what they do here. And we always want to make sure that they know that we appreciate them. So I want to go ahead and actually start our resident panel. So we're very proud of all the residents for taking the time out of their day to be here tonight. So if the residents, we're gonna go ahead and put you guys up on the panel, and we want to, if you guys can introduce yourselves, and then we can start with questions. The students, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Parra, one of the second-year emergency medicine residents.
Hi, my name is Justin Chuang. I'm a second-year internal medicine resident. Nice to meet everyone.
Welcome. Anyone else?
Devin Francion, anesthesia resident. Nice to meet you guys.
Then, how's it going, everyone? I'm Eric. I'm also one of the PGY2 emergency medicine residents.
Hello, everyone. Gerby, PGY3 pediatric resident.
All right. I think we got everyone here. I can go ahead and start asking the residents questions, and if the students feel that they have any questions, please feel free to send it on the chat box. But I can start with, does anybody have a family or any babies? And if so, what has been your experience like in medical school or residency?
I'll go ahead and start. My name is Justin. I'm the second-year internal medicine resident. I recently just had a baby. His name is Aiden. He's 5 months old now. Yeah, my experience, our residents, my colleagues, everyone, leadership are very, we're all very, very supportive, in terms of like scheduling, which was, important, especially having a baby. They were very, very nice about that. We worked out, a great schedule for, the timing of, having my baby. And again, I'm really appreciative of that. So that was one thing. In terms of finding support outside, like both me and my wife, we both work. She's a nurse, and obviously I'm a resident. As the year gets busier, finding daycare, etc., is very important. And we're really happy that wasn't an issue at all. We found one by Holland, Sylvania, and there's a lot of different other areas that you can really find daycare and support for. So yeah, I think everything's going great. Yeah, so just kind of my experience.
And what are some of the other ways that residents have found sources of support, particularly during your first year, as most of the students on the line are looking towards that first year? So what are the ways that you found support to get through some challenging times?
Oh, sorry, did you mean like just the first year of residency?
Yeah, like what are some of the challenges, and how did you kind of navigate through
Sure.
that during your
Yeah,
first year?
so, first year of residency, I think wherever you go, it's going to be hard, right? Because the learning curve is just, you're going from being a medical student to starting to see, patients. You're taking responsibility, for someone's life. And there comes with the learning of the clinical aspect, the EMR, and it's great that we have the Epic, because I've used some other EMRs in the past, such as Cerner, and Epic makes everything a lot smoother. So and I think, you know, what's important to when you're having to learn all these things, what helped the most was you know, being around your colleagues that will help you, your seniors. And I think, you know, during my first year, everyone was very supportive. You know, they understand that you're a medical student. You know, this is your first, you know, year, you know, being a doctor, treating patients. And everyone was very patient, you know, with me, with the rest of my colleagues that just entered as an intern year. And I think that's very important is that, you know, everyone takes an approach of understanding, you know, taking the time to teach you, and because they've been there. And I think that kind of personality, you know, resonates, you know, across our residency. And I think that's one of the things that's very important and something, again, that I'm very proud of and very happy to, you know, be able to talk about.
I can go next. I'm Latoya. I'm one of the pediatric residents. I'm in PGY2. One of the big things that helped me get through intern year was kind of relying on my co-residents. So like the people who are in the same year as you, they help you because they're going through similar things as you. You can vent to them. Maybe things are new to them as well. So if they've found a way to like do things, they can help you figure those type of things out. And then the residents that are above you, that are more advanced, like they can help you with those types of things as well because they've done it. They have more experience. They, if it's a medical thing, a medical knowledge thing, they have more medical knowledge and more medical experience than you as well. And then in my program, a lot of the attendings, as well as you advance through your intern year, the expectations for you change. So in the beginning, as the last speaker was saying, the expectations are different. Like everyone know that you're adjusting, you're kind of making the switch from medical student to doctor, and like dealing with the realization like, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm taking care of people, these are my patients. I think just kind of like everyone around me were really integral in like helping me make that adjustment and feel comfortable in my role as a doctor and grow in that role to like a senior resident now.
Excellent. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
hello everyone. I'm Samah Ali. I'm a first year pathology resident. So I just started like 4 months ago. And I totally agree with my colleagues. Like the first year is not easy for you. You're exploring the things, you know, the policies. Plus, just like, you know, the difference between you being a medical student and then you being a resident. And my experience so far is a wonderful experience with all the support that they have from my colleagues and the attendings and the program director. They all there for you. They understand your situation. They understand the stress that you are in through the first year, knowing everything, and it's new for you. So yeah, they are supporting, and the environment is very positive environment, and you feel like you are in between your family, and they're all there for you to help, just in case you need it.
Very good. Anyone else want to share?
I would definitely say that when you start your first year, it's definitely very difficult making that jump between medical student to doctor. Having a support system is 100% so important. I mean, when you pick your programs, I know part of the big reason I chose to come here was because the ER residents, especially the seniors and you know, the people above me and the faculty were just very supportive. And any issue you might have, everyone there is always open ears. And not just within the residency, but just within the residents in general. I know I made some of my best friends actually in some of the off-service rotations too, actually. And we get a chance to otherwise kind of hang out and get to know each other and support each other through that's residency too. And I think the big thing also that's really helpful is that now when you become like a second year, you can also be that kind of mentor to the first years too. And I feel like that can also help kind of also help support you and other people in trying to go through the pathway that's medicine.
Yeah, I think they all hit on great spots. I think the biggest thing is, you know, choosing a program that you like the residents and the faculty that are already there. It's, you know, it's going to be a toss up with your class. You know, you can't really know who's going to show up day one with you in your class, but you do have full control over the program or programs that you consider and the people that are going to be there to support you. Whether that be the faculty, the residents, ancillary staff, people in the areas that you're going to choose. All those things should be taken into consideration, when you think about where you're going to go and the support that you're going to have wherever you're going to be at.
Jonathan, did you want to ask next one?
All right, thank you guys. So can you guys maybe kind of go over how hard was it to get into your specialty?
Can you rephrase the question?
Yeah. The specialty that you guys picked, or you guys can just talk about the paths into getting to medicine or your residency program.
So I guess I can go first. I started out always thinking that I was going to end up in pediatrics. So I feel like my plan to get to residency was a little bit derailed. I kind of set myself up for pediatrics from day one. As I was going through and kind of learning about different specialties, as you guys will all learn if you're not already, you're in your 4th year, having had applied, there's a bunch of fun things to do out there. And so I think what you have to kind of do is set yourself up to know what you want ahead of time. You have to apply to a specialty or specialties that you really do enjoy. And I think everybody kind of figures out who they are over time. Your medical school experience will definitely tell you if you like patients, if you like procedures, if you like both, if you are a clinic person, if you're an OR person. These are all things that you're going to have to ask yourself in order to understand what path you need to go down. Once you start to understand those things, then I think that you truly can start to apply to the places that you want to go. The question of how hard it is to get into any specialty, I think if you're meeting the criteria in terms of studying and doing well on tests, I think that things are possible, depending on the amount of work that you're putting in. But assuming that anybody is willing to put in any amount of work that's necessary to go into, any of the specialties, then I would say that it more so depends on what you are interested in.
Questions from the chat too. Oh, did you want to come on, Toledo?
Oh, can you hear me, guys? I don't know if yeah. So, being a 3rd-year resident in pediatrics, I have to say that it wasn't an easy road. You guys speak about support from outside and all the college support and the peers and everything, and I completely agree. But I think what's more important than that is that you do have to support your own self. You do have to learn how to stand up for yourself, how to fall and then stand up again and push yourself every day through the day, waking up every day at 5 a.m., having that goal in front of your eyes is not an easy path. Anyone who tells you like residency is easy, yeah, it's a piece of cake, I just chose my specialty and I went for it, he's a big liar, I'm sorry. But it definitely worth. And it pays off. So it's life saving. It's a big thing what we're doing. So I would just recommend I don't know how to phrase it, but it just pays off.
Thank you. Does anybody? Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, just what are some of the practical ways that you keep going? You said it's very difficult and grueling. So what are some of the practical strategies that you've had to draw on to keep going and to keep that resolve through residency training? And things even to mitigate the stress.
I think it's different according to your personality, according to your social situation. If you do have a family around you, if you do have kids, if you do have like a financial goals or social goals. So, everyone have their own goals. For me specifically, they were my kids. Like, I just wake up every day, see my kids, and I know that I'm leaving home and I'm leaving them with a babysitter. I have two kids who are like 8 years old, who's in third grade. I have an 18-month-old who's just like starting to, learn the word. So I know that I'm leaving home and I'm leaving them for a goal. And I just go and get that goal. I'm going to work. I'm not going to play. I'm not leaving them for nothing. That was my just push.
I can also comment on, in terms of like stressful times. I think one of the most important things is that you never forget, about taking care of yourself. That means, if you're doing like sports, if you exercise before, like for myself, I never stop, swimming, for example. Like I always would take, time, and that helps me relieve my stress. I play my guitar. And I think those are things that you should always take care of yourself. Eating as well, when things get stressful, like again, when you get busy in residency, we tend to skip over these basic needs, and then just eat unhealthy, or just completely forget to like exercise and take care of yourself. The other thing is, I think everyone is sort of guilty to an extent of this, is that when you're busy, especially busy nights, and over time, we tend to start treating patients kind of more as like numbers, and like the like on a paper, just because of how stressful things are. And I think one thing that I always remind myself of is, why did I go into medicine in the first place? And that I remind myself, these are people that are, they're patients, they're real people that are putting trust in you. And when I kind of remind myself of the passion of why I went into medicine, my goal was to, help serve the underserved communities, and I've always reminded myself of that, how I got here, why I had so much passion to go into medicine. And, these thoughts and like combination of all this is really what, pushes me if I am kind of pushed to, a stressful, time. And I think just, again, all these things is just kind of how I personally deal with. But like she mentioned, everyone's a little bit different. So
I will make my comment like really short so we can move on to the next comment. I think a big thing for me that helps me get through the hard time is like my family. My sister lives pretty close. She lives in Detroit. So I talk to her a lot. And so sometimes like you just need someone to remind you, like when you're in the process of going through things, like all the other obstacles that you've overcome beforehand to get to this point. And for me, like my path to medicine wasn't straightforward. Just like having someone help you remember those things when things get really difficult, and there's been things that you've overcome before, and this is a different obstacle, but it's still an obstacle, and you've demonstrated that you can overcome things in that way. And then I do like Pilates. Like I just find like a hobby, just something to do, something that's like completely different, that kind of like helps me to relax and kind of challenge, but like in a different way. Yep.
But I wanted to quickly answer. There's someone, Noreen, had a question for internal medicine, I guess in specific, about board exams and how they prep us. So every noon, at least for our program, we always have a noon lecture. So and we basically have a series of speakers from different departments, general internal medicine, infectious disease, gastroenterology, and these are all lectures that help us every day to review and let us know at least what our weak points are, if if we're listening and we don't understand something, and in terms of like board review, we have an in-service training exam. That's really, every single program has that. And in your first year of internal medicine residency, you take that pretty early, and it's more to gauge on what where you currently are, and to identify your weaknesses so that you can improve on that. And that's really what it is, really a test meant to be for. So as the year progresses, second year, third year, you're going to have the exam every year. And again, after that first test, you'll get a detailed a list of every subject, what questions, what topics you missed and what you need to work on. And again, the program's very supportive. They provide us, all the books and the materials. We even have a stipend. I think the first year now, I believe, or correct me if I'm wrong, I forgot what the first year is. Maybe you're like 400, maybe I think it was $400 that you can use on question banks or other. I use mine on question banks, for example, and you can use those funds. But they also provide you the basic MKSAP, books to help you review. So, yeah. So I hope that answers your question. And the
This is
feedback, yeah, we get that after end of every rotation, you get a review by your colleagues. So you have resident feedback, as well as the attendings feedback. And throughout all my internal medicine inpatient, after every rotation, the attendings actually sit down with each one of us. And not again, it's just more to have a more personal feedback to let you know, hey, you did a great job in these areas. These are some areas that you could kind of maybe improve on. And again, this is more of a supportive feedback to really help you improve yourself. So that's kind of how we do it in our internal medicine department.
That's excellent prep. Does anyone else want to talk about their board prep now and even how it is similar or has changed since their med school preparation for standardized tests?
Yeah, so medical school, you're especially the first and second year where, you're just studying and studying, and third, fourth year is, more clinical. Obviously in residency, you're not going to have as much time to study, because you're taking care of patients, right? And pretty much every day. So, when you go home, obviously you get a little bit tired and it's hard, of course you want to kind of just calm down a bit and relax. So the way I do it, and again, everyone's different, but you when you're treating patients, their disease processes, you read about them there and then, right? You look up uptodate.com, which is provided for free, and there are other resources. You can even bring your books with you. In an intern year I did that. I brought my book with me, and if my patient had a certain disease process, I would just look it up right away. And that way, when you're putting, the knowledge and you're associating that with the patient, you're less likely to forget it. And then when you're going to be seeing, repetition, and that's really the key, right? We don't, at least for me, I can't remember something unless I've really, read it or seen it like at least 3 to 4 times, and to really, incorporate to my long-term memory. And I think that's really the best way to learn and actually help with your board tests as well. Throughout the year, when you see a patient, write something down you don't understand, and you go home and you read about it then and there. And if you don't have the resources, then you go home and then you read about the patient. And then when you have spare time where you're not as tired, there's some, lay back on a weekend or a lighter rotation. Basically what I'm trying to say is you need to be studying every single day. It's because when your test comes up at the end of the year or your board exam comes up, this is something you can't cram, right? This is something that you need to be doing pretty much little by little every day about learning. And I think that's really the key to success and, doing very well on board exams. And that's the way I've done it. And yeah, I'm very happy with my board exam so far. So, and that's my method.
That's wonderful.
What
Very
about
helpful. Mhm.
yeah, what about EM, anesthesia? We have PATH, PEDS here. Do you guys want to talk about how you're prepped for boards?
So for PEDS, it's pretty similar to the way IM's board prep is. So we have Tuesday lectures. There are didactic sessions. We have lectures on different topics through pediatrics. Periodically, we get a set of questions from our program director that are in areas that previous years had like lower scores in. So like areas that other graduating years had difficulty in. We will do questions in those areas. We also have access to board questions. We have our IT as well. And then based on our IT scores, we kind of come up with a individual study plan for ourselves for the year in areas that we want to kind of improve on. And then in your third year, there's a formal like board prep course in the last like 6 months before graduation.
Okay,
For
in pathology, we are a little bit different. We always have 2 hours, protected 2 hours of didactics. If we don't have didactics in the morning, then it's 2 hours for studying. So we have a chance to do some studying during the day. The construction of our rotations, sometimes like, okay, if we are in surgicals, one day for grossing, second day for previewing the cases, and that give us a very good opportunity to read about these cases, to read about these diseases. Then we have a case preview with the attendings in some didactics. They review the interesting cases, they review the board questions regarding those systems. So yeah, for so far, I feel like I have a very good chance to study and prepare for the boards.
Thank you.
I do feel like the best strategy is to invest the daytime hours. So during the work hours, if you get a chance to read like up-to-date topic about that patient, or just like do 2 prep questions with your colleagues, and like invest that daytime in between patients, in between clinical duties and stuff, and go home free of anything. If you don't have like an exam or IET or something like you really need to go home and study for, don't do it. Like just go home and relax and spend some time with yourself or family or whatever you want to do. I think that way you get like to have a balance between your work, study, and life.
That's great advice. I even remember as a resident, you have the ebb and flow. You know, it's not always at a peak of 10 with your flow throughout the day. So when you have those moments, you can take that opportunity to maximize it for studying. That's great advice. There is one of the first questions, the research question. Any one of the residents who are been interested or have experience with research, the question is, a student who's applying for programs that's done extensive research, and this time commitment may have taken some of the edge away in terms of their competitiveness with applying even. How do you think you can put your research to the forefront or emphasize that when you're trying to match, or what are some of the ways that you can use that research experience to give you a more competitive edge in your application?
I didn't do research, but I would say the way that I would probably think to approach it is to be confident in the way that you spent your time, to not look at it as something that you need to defend or you think is bad. This is your passion. So you should approach any conversation about your research as, willing to explain to somebody why you thought whatever it was that you were learning or researching was important, what you gained from it, why it made you a better candidate or a better future doctor, or how you might continue your research into the future. And I think if you approached it that way, it'd probably be hard for anybody to use it against you.
Yeah, so between my 34th years of medical school, I did a research year. It was a T32, like NIH funded research year. I didn't really have a lot of problems in terms of it coming up as an issue on the interview trail. A lot of times we get a lot of very specific questions about like the research. So being able to like defend your research in terms of like being able to discuss it at a level that's appropriate for the person who's asking you questions was a very important. And like the previous speaker said, just like really selling the assets, the skills that you learned as a part of those research projects. So your ability to complete projects, that's a big thing with research. Like different skills that you learn in the various research projects, whether it's like statistical things, and those are assets that you bring to any like department when you are when you have had that research experience. And also just making sure like in your application too, or like your interviews, talking about like, yeah, I've done lots of research experience, but the clinical, like this is how it ties clinically to my clinical like desires or clinical experiences, and making sure to kind of try to tie those things together. I think that should help too.
Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, this question was by Just Read, and yeah, I when you asked that question, actually, when I'm reading, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I have many colleagues who took actually a year off. I had two to three colleagues that took a year off to do research, and you know, like Latoya was saying, you know, those are all very great points. It's really how you present yourself and what you learn from the research, and you know how that made you into, you know, a better applicant, how that's going to make you a better physician. Because residency program, especially our institution, you know, we want people to do research. We love research, and you know, I'm doing a couple projects myself actively right now. So yeah, I wouldn't look at that negatively. And it's again how you present yourself, what you've learned from it, how that's going to make you, you know, a better physician in the future. And then you kind of think about that, put it together, and then present it in that way. And I don't think that's going to be looked upon negatively at all.
I also want to add that program directors look at your application as a whole. So they will look at you as a person, personality wise. They will look at your clinical skills, at your research skills, at everything in your CV. Like at the end of the day, they want someone who can communicate with patients, communicate with their colleagues, don't have like big red flags. If you want to do research because you like it, that's completely fine. I support it. And me, myself, like, and many other colleagues, were doing research and the institution is helping us. But don't try just to fill papers. Like, don't try to make your applications contain a lot of research stuff just to try to make a case rather than like working and in yourself as a whole, if it makes any sense.
That's excellent.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back. I know somebody had asked about feedback, and I saw that Devin was able to answer that. But does anybody else have any answers to this question? Is how often is the feedback given to you residents by the faculty?
For our program, we have the monthly feedback like after each rotation, and feedback from the residents above and below, like if we're a senior resident, the intern that we work with, if you're an intern, like the senior resident that you work with. And then we have something called Feedback Fridays. So we're like making it a habit, like whatever rotation you're on that Friday of that rotation, asking the attending that you're with or the other residents that you're working with for feedback. Just so you're not going through the entire rotation, just to only get feedback at the end.
Great.
For us in pathology, we have like two types. Like we have formal feedback and we have the informal one. The formal feedback will be through new innovation. Every month after you finish your rotation, you will go to the new innovation. You will put your feedback regarding the attendings, and they will put the feedback. But we have the informal one, like during the rotation, they will tell you like, okay, what they think, like your strong areas, what the area that you need to work more on it, and I think that's all.
As an applicant and even as a first year, you also have to do your best to seek out feedback. I know in your first year, especially as an intern, you should be asking every shift with your, especially with the people on your service. So like in EM, I ask all the EM attendings after every shift, you know, any feedback for this shift, what could I do better? And then anything that you know personally from the feedback in terms of like specific pathologies is something that you should be studying for, especially like if it's boards related. That way you can combine your studying and also work on being a better physician otherwise.
And just to build on what Eric said, in the end, the good thing is you kind of see where you're lacking or not lacking because everything's so instant. So if you're doing a procedure and you're seeing that you're not doing it right, you have the attending right there to ask those questions. But the good thing about our program is they will be giving you feedback as you're doing it. As well as managing the patient, you know, you put in the orders and instantly the attending seeing them and adding something on. So asking, oh, why did you think that way? Or how could I have thought that way as a resident or as an intern? So I think in ER, it's very important because everything's instant. So, and you'll see a similar patient maybe right after. So getting that instant feedback is important. And the good thing about our program is we do get it on a regular basis from our attendings and from not just attendings, but coworkers and as well even nurses, because everyone can give you different feedback that maybe the attending doesn't see, but the nurse sees how you deal with it. So not just someone that's considered an attending, but everybody in the workforce, I think, is important to get that feedback from.
That's great. There's another question on the chat about the diversity of your clinical encounters. So the question is, how diverse are your clinical encounters in your training program?
I think you see everybody here.
Mhm.
I mean, I think personally, going between all the places that I've been here in West Virginia, definitely have some of the sicker patients. UT definitely, you see a lot of what we classify as ASA 3s, 4s, people that may have not taken care of themselves the best, or in West Virginia, we call them the smotherers. On our first day to medical school in West Virginia, we sat down at a place and they asked if we wanted our tater tots smothered with gravy, right? So just the idea that basically, you're consuming a lot, you're not necessarily thinking about what's best for your body. There are some people that are like that here, and it is for, I hate to say it like this, but it's in your best educational interest to deal with some sicker patients. I think that is definitely a strong suit that we encounter here at UT. A lot of people are sick. You get the healthy ones, but the sick ones definitely make you a better doctor.
Anyone else?
I mean, I would just add to the fact that, in emergency medicine, our patient population is whatever we see that otherwise kind of comes in. I mean, I feel like, it's a level 1 trauma center. And then we're seeing that wide array of patients that you see in any kind of major city area. That's the one thing I like about being a resident here. Otherwise, is that we see that huge array of patients. And that I agree that helps us become better physicians otherwise, and also not just in terms of like sick patients, but also like social issues as well. Something that you might not get at a like a non-major city area otherwise, like Toledo.
All right, I'm going to take this last question and then we can wrap it up. So this question is, are there any administrative, bioethics, and legal training available for residents? Do any of you guys get any type of training for those type of things?
Yeah,
So for our, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So for our residency program, we do ethics like every second Friday of the month. We have like different lectures in ethics and different like cases that we will go through. And then as a part of our in our clinic, we have a X+Y schedule. So during our clinic week, we have something called advocacy, and then that way it's not specifically legal training, but we work with lawyers that help patient get access to certain resources and things like that, or if there's issue with like housing, or if a patient with asthma needs like an air conditioning but they have a slumlord, things like that, we get that type of exposure and training and like contact with those types of resources. Just because in the pediatric side there's like quite a bit of like advocacy and like work on behalf of the patient. So and then administrative, that's more, I don't like, is that like clinic administration? Because like if you want to do a rotation, you want to go into outpatient, there's rotations and things like that to get more of like a idea of like what it's like on the administrative side for clinic things.
Somebody asked about the clinical volume and whether or not it supported studying, I think. I think it probably is specialty dependent. Anesthesia is pretty tough because of the hours, but we kind of talked a little bit about finding ways to be able to study in between. If you just, print out a couple pages, stick it in your back pocket and walk around with it, and anytime that you get a chance, you grab it out of your back pocket and read it a little bit. that works. Having questions on your phone helps. Anything that you can do during your downtime, I think, helps to support that ability to study, even if your clinical work is large.
Yeah, for internal medicine, we have more of a I guess we do have more of a balance. I've never run into a problem, at least where I really didn't have time to either read on my patients or study, when I get back home. So yeah, there's at least for internal medicine in our department, I've never had that issue. You will have time to study, you will have time to read up on your patients, and even as well to do research. We have actually a dedicated research month. So yeah, just one.
Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and wrap this up, and I will hand this back to Dr. Frederick. Thank
right.
you. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much to all of you, both the resident and the faculty participants, as well as the many of you joining us. We know that your days are long, unbelievably, and time is precious. So we thank you for that. We hope that we were able to effectively share a little bit about who we are and particularly why we're excited to find Toledo and the University of Toledo our home, what we have to offer, and then also to point you a little bit in the direction of further detail. As Dr. Klaczynski highlighted, and we both pointed to some of the additional information we have as to ability to contact us. We encourage and welcome any follow-up information that you may want to seek out from us. And we're more than happy to gather in any fashion that we can information that you may have that we haven't covered in this, and you have that contact information. So if there's certainly anything that we can do in that regard, please don't hesitate to reach out to us to those contact areas. And as Dr. Klaczynski shared, especially, we encourage you to especially do a little bit more looking to meet any questions that you may have as well at some of our strategic planning around diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as our GME programs, and why we're excited that we continue to grow in graduate education, which is where you're all ready to launch. And we believe strongly that we would offer for you, as has been offered for many of us, the opportunity to really grow and flourish at the University of Toledo. So we thank you very much, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if we can offer any further information or a conversation with you. So thank you very much. Have a good night all.